possibilities for a student who will be the first in their family to graduate college. It all starts with teachers who meet challenges with creativity, who reinvent education for the future, who work towards a school system that lifts up every child, regardless of race, income, or zip code, and to enable the full potential of our students, our communities, and our country. Explore a career that leaves a legacy you can be proud of. Shape the future. Teach. Learn more and receive free support at teach.org.
Broadcasting from the Peterman Brothers Heating, Plumbing, and Electrical Studios, this is Indy's Mobile News, 93 WIBC. WIBC HD1 Indianapolis. The news starts now.
Iowa, the new battleground. I'm Ann Carrick, Fox News. Republicans running for president making their case to Iowa voters last night.
Former President Trump talked about having the most secure border in American history. He talked about his polling numbers being better than Ron DeSantis's and slammed Joe Biden's foreign policy, specifically Afghanistan. Vivek Ramaswamy, he said he would shut down several federal agencies, including the FBI, the IRS, the ATF, and the CDC. He talked about restoring pride in America and filling a void in the minds of young people with patriotism and hard work. And then former Vice President Mike Pence got on stage as well. He called for a 15-week abortion ban at the federal level. He also told the GOP it's time to resist the politics of personality, potentially a shot at his former president Donald Trump.
Fox's Bill Melugin in Des Moines, the first Republican presidential caucus, January 15th in Iowa. President Biden at his home in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, for a 10-day vacation before heading to the beach, touting his economic policies.
President Biden starting his vacation first in Maine, speaking at a textile factory to boast about the economy. Now, economists push back on that, saying inflation is not coming down. It's still increasing, just at a decreased rate. Inflation was up 3% last month compared to the year before, when it was up 9%. And anyone who goes to the grocery store knows food prices continue to increase, and fuel prices are back on the rise, now at an 8-month high. Americans owe $1 trillion in credit card debt. The vice president speaking across the country with a different message, acknowledging the hardship many Americans are facing.
Fox's Lucas Tomlinson in Washington. Ukraine's President Zelensky is signing a law moving the official Christmas holiday to December 25th. Ukraine was celebrating on January 7th, same as the Russian Orthodox Church. Zelensky says it's part of Ukrainians' relentless, successful struggle for their identity. America is listening to Fox News.
New from the Fox News Podcast Network.
I'm Emily Campagno, and this is the Fox True Crime Podcast.
And I had nothing to do with her disappearance.
I sit down with the people who lived the nightmares.
I was in shock. I was just devastated.
The investigators who tirelessly worked on the case.
And I really hope that they can catch this guy.
Bringing you closer to the story than you ever thought possible.
Listen and follow now at foxnewspodcasts.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
These are the stories that keep you up at night.
From the Fox News Podcasts Network. Listen to the all-new Bret Baier podcast featuring Common Ground, talking to lawmakers weekly from opposite sides of the political spectrum about the issues of the day and how Americans can find common ground in a politicized world.
That's just not happening on Capitol Hill. It takes leadership, right?
Yeah, it absolutely does.
Along with all your Bret Baier favorites like the campaign, the candidates, the all-star panel, and much more. Available now at foxnewspodcasts.com or wherever you get your podcasts. 93 WIBC Mobile News. On the level, on the go.
An uncertain future. I'm Sasha Nixon. Here's what's trending this hour. He wants a long-term deal, but nothing is imminent. Ryan Hedrick explains.
Colts running back Jonathan Taylor wants to be paid like one of the elite players in the league, but Colts owner Jim Irsay says the team has not offered Taylor a contract extension. Taylor played in just 11 games last year due to injury. 2 seasons ago, he was considered one of the top offensive players in the league. He's in the last year of a rookie deal. Ryan Hedrick, 93 WIBC Mobile News.
A man died after being shot outside of a Shell gas station on Indy's North Side Friday. IMPD says officers found the injured person on North Emerson Avenue. The victim was taken to the hospital but did not survive. Former Vice President and Indiana Governor Mike Pence is still working to earn a spot on the primary debate stages. He tweeted a message Saturday asking his followers to donate at least $1 to his campaign. He wrote, "When I am president, I will protect every American's first freedom that our founding fathers fought so hard to put in place." Now that the state fair is open, you can check out things like the Dairy Bar, and there's a new signature grilled cheese item this year called the Italian Melt,
which is provolone and basil pesto on sourdough bread with a side of marinara, if you would like it.
Brooke Williams with the American Dairy Association Indiana says you can also get a mint cookie milkshake topped with Girl Scout cookie Thin Mint crumbles. On the level, on the go, and on WIBC.com. Now here's the forecast from the American Standard Cooling Weather Center.
Tonight, partly cloudy skies as clouds will decrease, low temperature of 67 degrees. Sunday, a mostly sunny day, not as humid as previous days, high temperature of 86 degrees. I'm Wish TV Storm Track 8 meteorologist Ryan Morse for 93 WIBC.
Meals from those years are hard to forget. It was all white bread and whole milk, hamburger casseroles and quiche Lorraines, all with a side of cigarettes. We ate salads as desserts. We knew a party was classy if it had a cheese log, and we never missed an after-dinner smoke. It didn't matter if we were in our dining rooms, a burger joint, or the ritziest of restaurants. There'd be an ashtray on every table, and that very particular flavor in every meal. We smoked for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's amazing that our food could taste like anything else. If that was you then, get your lungs screened now. Surviving lung cancer starts with a scan. Learn more at screenyourlungs.org. This PSA was made possible by industry funding and guidance from lung cancer patient groups.
Emma and Nigel here, inviting you to join us as we kick off the weekend every Friday around 5:45 with Beer Sample Friday, brought to you by our friends at Thompson Furniture and Mattress in Columbus.
No Kid Hungry is providing healthy meals and hope to hungry kids so they can build better futures. Learn more at helpnokidhungry.org.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This is the Second Amendment. And this is the Gun Guy.
Boom, 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 boom. Bang, 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 bang. Boom, 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 boom. Bang, bang, bang.
With Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Gun Guy Show here on 93 WIBC. So glad you're with us. I hope you're enjoying this beautiful afternoon. It was supposed to be another miserably hot day today, but I think the rain coming through cooled it down a little bit. I thought it was totally comfortable out today. I rode the Harley downtown today again, which I love to do. Saw a lot of my fellow motorcycle riders out, which is always fun. And it's fun to bring the bike downtown too. And anyway, whatever you were into and enjoying this afternoon, we hope it involved getting outside, exercising your Second Amendment rights. If you went out and shot some sporting clays, went out and shot some long distance, went to an outdoor pistol range, whatever it might have been, we hope you also got to go bust some primers and enjoy your Second Amendment rights on a day like today. It's a great day for it. And always, and I'm always looking for these opportunities, seek out where there's training going on in your area. Listen, in the wording of the Second Amendment, a well-regulated militia. The Second Amendment is beautiful, I think, in its wording, especially when you really understand what all of the words mean. And a lot of them have been interpreted by the U.S. Supreme Court. For instance, well-regulated, as used in 1789 when the Second Amendment was ratified, meant nothing more than well-equipped, well-trained, efficient, able to do its job. That's what well-regulated meant. Like a well-regulated clock keeps perfect time. That's what a well-regulated militia means. It doesn't mean regulated by the government, and that dispute's been settled for many years. So don't ever put up with that if you hear an alternative definition for that term. And the militia, as the Supreme Court has also said, and as I've been saying for decades, is every person. It's every private citizen. It's me. It's you. That's what the militia means. And so if it's you and me, and we're necessary for the security of a free state, which our founding fathers said, and I couldn't agree more, it's to some degree our obligation to be well regulated. How do we do that? Well, we become well trained and well equipped. And that doesn't mean everybody has to participate. People would rather not. People aren't comfortable. For whatever reason, I respect that entirely. But for those of us who have made the decision to be firearms owners, then really it's up to us and it's our personal responsibility. It's not something that should ever be mandated by the state, mandated by the government to come in and require it, because it's a constitutional freedom that you're exercising. But to the extent that you choose to exercise that right as a matter of personal responsibility, really it's incumbent upon us as a matter of personal responsibility and pride and respect for our community, respect for others around us, including our families, that we're going to be well regulated. So I hope you look for those opportunities. I'm a training junkie. Even though I've been an instructor for 25, 30 years, I still take as many training courses as I can fit into my schedule, because I always learn something. I always get better. I always become just a little bit more well-regulated. That's what that process is all about. And, for someone who not only fights for Second Amendment rights, but takes those rights very seriously and takes the responsibilities that come along with it very seriously, as I always have. I mean, that's why I wrote a book on gun safety. It's one of the reasons I became an instructor for those people around me. I wanted to be trained and competent to help them be knowledgeable, trained, equipped, well-regulated. And I know so many, hundreds, thousands of people that I've encountered over the years feel exactly the same way. And that's why a lot of us get really insulted when we have members of the government out there, including both candidates for mayor right here in Indianapolis, where I'm sitting right now, who think that we're the problem. People that are lawfully carrying a firearm under constitutional carry. We're the problem. If you eradicate our right to defend ourselves, you eradicate our Second Amendment right to bear arms, that'll keep people safer in Marion County. Well, that's what both Democrat Joe Hogsett and Republican, much to our great disappointment, and frankly, that's angered a lot of people. It's very much angered me. I'm sure you've picked up on that. If you follow me on social media, either on Facebook, which is just Guy A. Relford, on Facebook, or on Twitter at Guy Relford. I'm angry. I'm angry about a Republican who pledged support for the Second Amendment when he ran for state Senate, filled out a form for the NRA where he pledged support on all significant Second Amendment issues to, for instance, oppose a so-called assault weapon ban, to support constitutional carry. Those things have been on the NRA form for years and years and years. And I haven't seen the form that Jefferson Shreve filled out. But I know what the form looks like. I know what it's looked like for years. I know the answers he had to give pledging support for Second Amendment principles before he ever would have gotten what's called an AQ rating from NRA. AQ is A, meaning you answered all the questions the right way, supporting the Second Amendment, but Q is qualified because you don't actually have a voting record, because you haven't actually been elected to anything yet. And Shreve actually got waxed in that primary. He got beat by Jack Sandlin, who's an excellent state senator right here from Indianapolis. And I'm very glad Jack Sandlin won that election given recent events. But now, having failed in his other attempt to enter politics here in Indiana, he's now running for mayor. And, it's interesting. Most of the reaction I've gotten, whether to my criticisms on social media, to articles I've written, I wrote an article saying Shreve's attack on Second Amendment rights should not be supported by Indianapolis voters. And I put that on the2aproject.com. You can go out there and read that article. Please do. And please share it. A lot of people have said, well, Guy, you must just want Joe Hogsett. And every time you criticize Jefferson Shreve, you idiot, you're helping Joe Hogsett get elected. You must love Joe Hogsett. One complete moron on social media, on Twitter, said, how much are they paying you? That is the Hogsett campaign, to be attacking Jefferson Shreve. Listen, let's make something extremely clear. I've been a critic of Joe Hogsett since before he was elected. I've known Joe Hogsett for a long time. We practiced law together. 40 years ago. How about that for establishing me as an old dude? Very first job as a lawyer I had was at a law firm then called Bingham, Summers, Welsh & Spillman. It's changed its name a number of times, but it's a larger firm in downtown Indianapolis. Joe Hogsett was already an associate attorney there when I started as a law clerk, and then eventually I graduated law school, and I passed the bar, and I got offered a job, and so I practiced there as a young associate attorney at the same time Joe Hogsett, who I think is 2 years ahead of me, if I remember correctly, where he was already a lawyer. And we socialized together. We went on boating trips together. I spent a lot of time with Joe Hogsett, and I've always known our politics were completely different, but man, the direction he's gone since then has led me to be one of his most vocal critics. The fact that he disappeared during the middle of a riot is unforgivable. The fact that he put out this ridiculous gun control proposal, which has passed the Indianapolis City County Council. It's a ordinance. It's passed. It's contingent on the state legislature repealing or otherwise modifying the Indiana Firearms Preemption Act, which right now prohibits the city of Indianapolis from regulating firearms at all. So it means nothing. It's an ordinance. It's on the books, but it doesn't go into effect until legally the city of Indianapolis can regulate firearms, which they cannot do today. But the fact that he wanted to do it, and the fact that he thinks law-abiding citizens exercising their Second Amendment rights are the problem, or the cause of violence in Marion County, I've been as vocal as I could be on that. I showed up and testified against it at the hearing in the Public Safety Committee of the City County Council. I was there opposing what Joe Hogsett wanted to do. I'm no friend of Joe Hogsett, but we're going to take a break. When we come back, I'll go into why it is that I think Jefferson Shreve, as a Republican, touting his anti-Second Amendment views, is dramatically more dangerous than Joe Hogsett is. I'll explain that in detail when we come back. Right now, we're taking a break. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Tony Katz.
I alphabetized my soundboard. Well, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. F?
Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, son.
I have to go to S for Sopranos. Makes sense.
Yeah, I think you got it.
It's so clean now. It's fantastic. Yeah, we have clearly run out of things to talk about. There's nothing else going on in the world.
It's a great world, everything's so.
This show is stupid.
Tony Katz, mornings 6 to 9 on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Guy Relford for Tactical Firearms Training. And our most popular class is our Essentials of Indiana Gun Law class. We've got a couple of those coming up. We've got Essentials of Indiana Gun Law for Cops. And this is for law enforcement officers only. This is actually being hosted by the Columbus Police Department. It's Thursday, August 8th, coming right up. It's going to be at City Hall there in Columbus. Any police officer from any department is welcome to be there. And you can register right online at tactical-firearms.com. Just click on upcoming courses. And then for the rest of us, for the civilians, we've got Essentials of Indiana Gun Law coming up on Saturday, August 19th, 9 a.m. to 2 o'clock p.m. at Parabellum Firearms in Avon. It's also $50 for an individual, $95 for couples. You can register for either one or both right online at tactical-firearms.com. Just click on upcoming courses at tactical-firearms.com.
Mark loves summers in Indy, but he hates to paint, so he called Rhino Shield.
It's a two-story home built in 1992. Around 2001, looking at needing to paint, I heard a radio ad, with Rhino Shield, you won't have to paint again for another 25 years.
That's because Rhino Shield's not paint, it's better.
They're very professional. We had everything done. Everything that would typically be painted on a house was done, and it was very fast.
All right, Indy, get the 25-year guaranteed protection of Rhino Shield right now for 10% off the regular price.
It was done in 2001 and still going strong. From what I've seen on our home, they can easily offer a 25-year guarantee and not worry about it.
Here's owner Shane Smith.
This offer is limited, so call me at 888-RHINO-41. That's 888-RHINO-41.
Don't paint.
Don't vinyl.
Go Rhino.
Don't paint. Don't vinyl. Go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
At Consumer Cellular, you get the same exact coverage as the largest carriers for up to half the cost. Same thing, up to half the cost. Less money for the exact same thing. Hope this is clear enough. Consumer Cellular. When freedom calls, they're here to answer. Switch today and get a second month of service for free. Go to consumercellular.com/free month and enter promo code free month. Half the cost savings based on cost of Consumer Cellular's single line 5 gigabyte data plan and unlimited talk and text compared to lowest cost single line postpaid unlimited talk, text, and data plans offered by T-Mobile and Verizon May 2023. Promotion subject to terms and conditions.
Hey, it's Hammer and Nigel for Window Nation with a few words about summer. Searing, scorching, sweating, sweltering, blazing, blistering, burning, baking, feeling the heat. Are we? High temps aren't the only thing getting you hot under the collar. Wait till you see your energy bills and your AC repair bills. The solution? I recommend my friends at Window Nation for new energy-efficient windows. Your home stays comfortable and cool. Your energy bill sinks as low as it can go, and your AC will avoid any premature breakdown.
And not to mention the incredible savings Window Nation is offering right now. With every 2 windows you buy, you'll get 2 free windows. Plus, you'll put 0 down. Make 0 payments with 0 interest for 24 months. This could be thousands of dollars in savings. So, maintain your chill, lower your bill, and get your home filled with new Window Nation windows. Buy 2, get 2 for free. Pay nothing for 2 years. Call now. 866-90-NATION or go to windownation.com. 866-90-NATION, windownation.com. Tell them Hammer and Nigel sent you.
The Indiana State Fair is back, and so is American Dairy Association Indiana's famous and fabulous State Fair Dairy Bar. From July 28th through August 20th, celebrate your State Fair visit with this year's featured treats, the Italian Melt Grilled Cheese, and the return of our biggest selling shake ever, the Mint Cookie Milkshake, a chocolatey delight topped with crumbled Girl Scout Thin Mint cookies. While at the fair, be sure to see the giant cheese sculpture inside the Ag Hort building. Our carvers will create a salute to our state's storied basketball heritage out of over 1,000 pounds of Pace Dairy cheese. The Dairy Bar, the giant cheese sculpture, State Fair Traditions, July 28th through August 20th. See you there.
Brought to you by American Dairy Association Indiana, your Hoosier Dairy Farm families. Find out more at wintersdrinkmilk.com.
Life is a collection of moments that last forever, so make them matter and make them count with that symbol of everlasting love. A diamond from Pierce Jewelers. Shop local, shop smart, shop Pierce Jewelers.
There are screening tests to catch cancer early. Visit cancer.org/getscreened.
Second to none on the Second Amendment. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. So before the break, I was mentioning, and it's kind of bizarre how we ended up here, but I was mentioning that I consider Jefferson Shreve as a Republican, as a candidate for mayor in Indianapolis, to be substantially more dangerous than Joe Hawks. And let me explain exactly why. And for the people not smart enough to figure this out on social media, right, they're going, oh, well, you must be a fan of Joe Hogsett. How much are they paying you, Guy? How ludicrous is that? But here's why. It's because, for instance, both the Shreve plan on gun control, and they're identical, but for one particular proposal is in Hogsett's plan, in fact, in his ordinance, that goes into effect if the Indiana legislature ever allows it to go into effect. They're identical. They both want to raise the minimum age to buy any gun to 21. Well, let's explain that. You already have to be 21 to go into a gun store to buy a handgun. You only have to be 18 to buy a rifle or a shotgun. So purportedly, this plan would be, according to both Jefferson Shreve and Joe Hogsett, is that you go into a gun store in Marion County, you got to be 21 to buy now a rifle or a shotgun. So get this, you can be 18 and go into the military. You can join the Marines. You can go to the desert, drive a tank, or run drones, or operate artillery, or be equipped with a Select Fire M4 rifle. And the United States government is perfectly okay with that. Your country is incredibly grateful for that. And you come home as a 19 or 20-year-old, and you can't go in your local gun store and buy a shotgun to go sporting clay shooting or rabbit hunting with your dad. And Jefferson Shreve and Joe Hogsett think that's going to keep people safer in Marion County. They also both want to ban so-called assault weapons. Well, again, you're talking about the most commonly owned rifles in America, so there's no way that's constitutional. Supreme Court has already said those firearms that are commonly used for lawful purposes are protected by the Second Amendment. The AR-15, which both Jefferson Shreve and Joe Hogsett would call an assault weapon, quote unquote, I call a modern sporting rifle, is the most commonly owned rifle in America. Is that protected by the Second Amendment? Of course it is. And the Supreme Court has only solidified those rulings in recent years. So there's no way that's constitutional, but oh no, that's going to somehow keep people safer in Marion County. They both want to repeal constitutional carry within Marion County. Well, this Indiana State Legislature just passed that last year. After a long fight, but it passed by a significant majority in the Indiana State House. And then the only difference is that Joe Hogsett also wants to preclude all concealed carry within Marion County. And get this, just last fall, in the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin case, the United States Supreme Court said carrying a concealed firearm outside the home is a fundamental right protected by the Second Amendment. And New York's licensing scheme, which was simply restrictive and only allowed some people based on the discretion of a government official, only allowed some people and very, very few people to carry a concealed firearm outside the home, particularly a concealed handgun. That because it was so restrictive and it allowed discretion by a government official, that was unconstitutional. Because if you only get to exercise a constitutionally protected freedom with the permission of the government, it's no longer a constitutional freedom. Now, it's an administrative right granted by the government. That's not how the Second Amendment's written. That's not what our founding fathers envisioned. Supreme Court of the United States just last fall said that specifically. Joe Hogsett says it's constitutional to do away with all concealed carry. It's not like government officials have some discretion on who can carry and who can't. Oh, no, we're going to do away with it completely. The Supreme Court of the United States just last fall said you can't do that, Joe. What idiots in the city attorney's office told you could do this? It's ludicrous. It's crazy. I've said it before. What did no one in the city attorney's office actually attend law school the day they taught law? Because that's the only way you can come up with some kind of an argument that that's somehow legal and constitutional. But I still say, and let me explain why I think Jefferson Shreve is more dangerous. Because both of their gun control proposals here in Marion County would require the Indiana General Assembly to repeal or modify the Firearms Preemption Act. What's the Preemption Act? If you haven't heard me discuss that before, it's the Indiana state law that was passed in 2011. It says local governments like the city of Indianapolis can't regulate firearms. Specifically, they can't regulate the carrying, possession, ownership, or commerce in firearms, ammunition, or firearms accessories. Now, there are several exceptions. For instance, if a private organizer or promoter of an event like the Colts or the Pacers, if they lease property from the city, and when I say political subdivision, we're just talking about a unit of local government, like a city or a town or a county. If the Colts lease property from the city of Indianapolis, as they do in the form of Lucas Oil Stadium, there's an exception that allows them to prohibit firearms on that city property during the Colts game. Doesn't make it illegal to carry a gun in Lucas Oil Stadium at all times. It just means the Colts can keep guns out of there if they want to. So there are certain exceptions, but none of those exceptions apply to what Joe Hogsett wants to do. None of those exceptions apply to what Jefferson Shreve wants to do. But the Indiana General Assembly would have to buy in to what both these people want to do. Jefferson Shreve, as a Republican, touting this plan is more dangerous than Joe Hogsett. Because listen, Joe Hogsett is who he is. He's a Democrat, he's a liberal, Everybody knows Joe Hogsett. Everybody knows who he is and what he is. If that's what you want for the city of Indianapolis, hey, he's been elected twice. He's certainly going to get elected a third time because Jefferson Shreve has blown his shot. But to the extent that Joe Hogsett goes to the Republican supermajorities in both houses of the Indiana General Assembly and asks them to amend the Indiana Firearms Preemption Act, what chance do you think Joe Hogsett has? Jefferson Shreve has already come out, and he said, as a Republican, I have relationships with the Republicans in the Indiana General Assembly. I think I can go to the Indiana General Assembly and convince them to allow Marion County to adopt my gun control proposals because I'm a Republican and I have the relationships to make that happen. He's using his nominal conservatism is the word I was looking for. The fact that he's a Republican, there's an R before his name, I can make this happen because I have an R before my name. Do I think that's going to happen? Oh, hell no. Is it more likely for Jefferson Shreve to be able to do it in some form, to whittle away in some way at a state statute that protects our Second Amendment rights and has every day since 2011? Certainly. I think he's got zero shot, but if you say he's got 1% shot, that's more shot than Joe Hogsett has. That's why Jefferson Shreve is more dangerous. A person who lied to us in 2016 and said he supports Second Amendment rights has now stabbed us in the back on the Second Amendment and wants to win this race as a Republican. Look, he's a wolf in sheep's clothing. Joe Hogsett is just a wolf when it comes to our Second Amendment rights. That's the difference. And listen, if I thought Jefferson Shreve ever had a legitimate chance, and certainly since he announced this plan, he's got no shot. What I don't want is for this to even be close and have the next Republican candidate think it somehow works and it can be a successful campaign strategy for a Republican to stab us in the back on the Second Amendment. That's not okay. That's not okay. Everybody knows who Joe Hogsett is. If he's reelected, which he no doubt will be, well, we know what we got. What we don't want to do is reward someone with an R next to their name who's stabbing us in the back on the Second Amendment. That's not okay. That'll never be okay. And I'll take, as miserable as it will be, I'll take 4 more years of Joe Hogsett long before I'll support a Republican who's turned his back on the Constitution of the United States of America. That's how that works. That's where I'm coming from. We come back. I'll go into a little bit. Jefferson Shreve appeared. He won't appear on my show. I've been asking him since he came out with his gun control proposal. They haven't even considered it. But on Wednesday, he went on Kendall and Casey, the late morning show, 9 to noon on WIBC. And he was on there for 3 segments. It's 27 minutes long. He was on there for quite some time. I've posted the whole interview on my social media, both Twitter and Facebook. I'm sure you can find it at WIBC as well. And for some reason, even though he wasn't asked about me, he felt the need to bring my name up. We'll talk about that and what I have to say in response when we come back. In the meantime, if you want to talk about the Indianapolis mayor's race, you have any comments, you want to ask questions, either one, give us a call, 317-239-9393. That's 317-239-9393. We're taking a break. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Kendall and Casey.
61% of Americans are more afraid of running out of money in their old age.
It's not that surprising.
I saw a meme and I just thought it was everything. It was like, okay, so Europeans, I'm going to take the summer off because I want a suntan. Americans, I'm going to take 3 days off to have open heart surgery.
Kendall and Casey, weekdays 9 till noon on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
AE Ammo is Greenwood's ammunition superstore. The largest variety in training, hunting, and self-defense ammo with the best prices locally guaranteed. Factory new 9mm FMJ ammo starting at $12 per 50-round box. Factory new 50-round boxes, $380 from $14.99 and $45 ACP from $18.99. And with the AE Ammo Customer Rewards Program, start earning points today towards money back to use on future purchases. Shop in-store or online at aeammo.com.
Dreaming about the freedom of the open road? Your local Tire Barn warehouse is now a full-service location, offering high-quality Valvoline oil changes. Your vehicle will be ready for any adventure, whether it's a road trip or a day at the beach. All Valvoline oil changes include a free courtesy inspection of your vehicle's fluid levels, battery, brakes, steering and suspension, tire tread depth, and pressure. Tire Barn is now offering appointment-free Valvoline oil changes. Whatever your dreams are this summer, Tire Barn Warehouse is here to drive them. See store for details. Some restrictions apply.
At DeLong Landscaping, their goal is to create the best curb appeal and outdoor living space for you. That could mean landscape design and installation, retaining walls, outdoor lighting, pergolas, and fire features. DeLong Landscaping specializes in pavers, concrete, stamped concrete, and decks. Google DeLong Landscaping, find them on Facebook, or call them today to schedule your free estimate at 317-667-5163. That's DeLong Landscaping at 317-667-5163.
We need each other because every someone needs someone else.
We need each other because when we work together, we can do so much more.
We connect more children with what they need to grow up healthy, educated, and safe. And that's what Child Fund is all about.
Because when you make someone's world better, you make everyone's world better.
Child Fund, because we need each other.
Learn more at childfund.org. That's childfund.org.
This hour on 93 WIBC, powered by Pierce Jewelers, Carmel's Diamond Engagement Ring Store.
Teamsters and workers at UPS are set to vote next Thursday on a new contract hammered out earlier this week. The deal should avert a possible strike that was set for August 1st. Teamsters President Sean O'Brien on Fox's Cavuto Live.
We're very supportive of this agreement. The committee has unanimously endorsed it. We'll get hopefully unanimous endorsement from the leadership, and then we'll just go out there and put the facts out to our members. And we're supporting this 100%. We're very proud of what we have accomplished.
UPS also praising the package, saying it rewards workers while helping the company retain the flexibility needed to stay competitive. 5 people wounded, 2 in critical condition after a mass shooting in Seattle at a community outreach event.
We know that there's dozens and dozens of rounds that were fired. Currently, our gun violence reduction unit is actually investigating this.
Police Chief Adrian Diaz. An Arizona woman runs every day with flags in honor of September 11th and the attack, despite scorching temperatures.
Everyone's talking about Galaxy Concrete Coatings and their transformation, like your neighbor Brett.
We did Galaxy for the sidewalks and also the porch. The porch had a few pits. Galaxy said that was no problem.
Home or business, Galaxy Concrete Coatings got you covered.
Obviously with the front sidewalk and step, so we didn't worry about any kind of slipping. You're concerned about that after rain. And then when it did dry, it didn't spot, it didn't stain. It was just like it had been done yesterday.
Lots of styles to choose from. 4 times stronger than epoxy and a 15-year warranty.
One thing that my wife commented on was how easy the Galaxy coating swept versus just the bare concrete.
Click on GalaxyConcreteCoatings.com now. That's Galaxy Concrete Coatings. And remember to like us on Facebook. Galaxy Concrete Coatings. We're out of this world.
We moved here recently. I didn't even think twice about calling anyone else but Galaxy to come do this house.
Planning on inviting friends and family over this summer? Everyone knows the hustle to get the house looking perfect, but there's one thing you can't fix on your own. The stuck windows and doors, drywall cracks, uneven floors, bugs, or mold and mildew smells. Things that stand out. Indiana Foundation Service knows that all of these signs point to major damage building up in your foundation, crawl space, or basement, and it'll only get worse over time. Don't worry. With a free inspection from Indiana Foundation Service, the team's experts will identify your home's issue at the source. You'll want to get ahead of these problems sooner rather than later. Visit IndianaFoundation.com today to book your free inspection with a no-obligation quote included. That's IndianaFoundation.com. Indiana Foundation Service. There's a reason they're the trusted local experts.
Indiana Reliability from the ground up.
The show about gun rights, gun safety, and responsible gun ownership. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. By the way, some people have started to call in. That's awesome. I will go to the phone lines here in just a bit. But I mentioned, even at the top of the show, that Jefferson Shreve came on WIBC. He won't come on my show. He won't come on Hammer and Nigel. I think it'd be perfect if he came on Hammer and Nigel, 3:35 on Mondays, man. Monday Gun Day. I'll be there. Hammer and Nigel will be there. We'll have a good old roundtable discussion. Bring your chief strategist, who for some reason likes to try to debate me on social media. It never goes very well for him. But Mark Lubbers, same guy, as I talked about it extensively last week, who drove Senator Richard Lugar's career into the dirt with what? With anti-Second Amendment proposals, including support for a so-called assault weapon ban in 1994. Eventually, an election or two later, earned an F rating from the NRA, and that's what did him in. And listen, I've had people contact me after I discussed that last week and say, Lugar lost for a number of different reasons. He moved to the center, if not the left, on a lot of different issues, not just guns. He'd been there too long. He was part of the swamp. I get all that. But I'll tell you right now, you go to Lugar's camp, including this Mark Lubbers guy, his campaign manager at the time, and say what was the principal reason that Lugar lost. And I'll tell you, when the NRA came out and supported his opponent, Richard Murdoch, and the F rating, and my recollection is, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, my recollection is first Republican in the Senate ever to get an F rating from the NRA. And he couldn't survive it. That's the reason he didn't win the primary. Now, were people upset that he moved to the center, or if not the left, on several other issues? I'm sure they were. But what put Murdoch over the top was the NRA opposition and that F rating. And I think if you don't understand that, you weren't paying attention in 2012 when he lost. But I've invited these people on my show. Hammer Nigel invited them on. If they're scared of being on there on Monday Gun Day, which apparently they are, all right, go on Hammer and Nigel when I'm not there. Guarantee you, Hammer and Nigel both will ask it tough questions. We'll see if you can stand up to it. But they did go on the Kendall and Casey show. And listen, I'm always busy at work, at my day job, 9 to noon when Kendall or Casey are on. So I literally never get to hear them. And so I wasn't able to hear this interview as well, but I did go back and listen to the podcast. And listen, I'm not ever going to criticize another host because, listen, we all have different styles. We all have different approaches to interviews. And frankly, we all have different levels of comfort when it comes to being adversarial with people. To have someone sitting right across the studio from you and be willing to get in their face, not literally, but figuratively speaking, on tough issues. And not everybody has a comfort level with that. And I completely understand that. And so that is a reason I'll never publicly criticize another host for their approach to an interview. But going into that, what I was hopeful of, because on the few times I have been able to catch Kendall and Casey, I mean, one of Rob Kendall's themes that you hear often is that he's very critical of Republicans who aren't true to conservative principles. And he talks a lot about rhinos and sellouts. And so he had, in my view, the biggest rhino we've seen in quite some time sitting in a studio. And I was hoping for a lot more direct and call it aggressive if you like, questioning, and that didn't really happen. But listen, judge for yourself. You can go on WIBC, Kendall and Casey, find the full, like it's 27 minutes. It was 3 segments. And you may disagree. And again, I'm not criticizing. We all have different styles and different approaches and different comfort level with taking on people directly. I'm a litigator. I mean, I fight for a living, so I'm strangely comfortable with those issues, which is probably a reason why Jefferson Shreve would never dream of coming on my show. But at one point, and this was very interesting to me, because neither Rob Kendall nor Casey Daniels asked Jefferson Shreve about me or my criticism, but Jefferson Shreve felt the need to bring me up.
This city that are just so different in terms of what folks have to contend with as they send their kids out the front door.
So I guess I'm confused on what he's...
You know what? I totally screwed that up. That is not the producer's fault. I started that at the wrong place. I am going to redo that after this break, and we'll completely do that. I just played the very tail end of that interview. That's why we have professional producers and we have hosts like me who are incompetent at trying to be producers. So I totally screwed that bit up, that segment up. I will replay that when we come back from this break. In fact, we're coming up on the 3/4 hour. Let's go into this break. I will figure out my gaffe and have the right segment to play here when we come back. We're taking a break. And by the way, we will go to the phone lines after I successfully get through playing this segment when we come back from this break. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Stopped on 465
From
again.
the north side.
We haven't moved on 37
to
since
the
yesterday.
south side.
Avoid south side 465.
To the west side.
Yeah, stopped on westbound 465
to
again.
the east
People
side.
Gridlock all the way through the east side.
Traffic's a bear.
Drove into a ditch through the tree line.
And
just
Matt Bear?
Traffic stop on the right.
He's a beast.
Traffic jam of epic proportion.
Helping you navigate the...
Oh, come on.
And the...
Let's go.
And the... With Matt Bear Traffic. Mornings and afternoons on 93 WIBC.
At Peterman Brothers, we know how critical AC can be to your comfort. And we want to make sure you're comfortable in every season. That's why right now when you install a qualifying AC system with Peterman Brothers, we'll include the furnace for free. That's right, Indiana. The furnace is free. And if you schedule today, we'll install your new system tomorrow, guaranteed. Visit PetermanHVAC.com to schedule online in seconds.
Uh-oh, Brad's buzzed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's starting with the woots. Good thing is, he knows when he's buzzed.
Know your buzzed warning signs? Call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
I'd rather be folding laundry.
This is gonna be fun.
Said no one ever. Also, no one enjoys wasting time in traffic. That's why we love saving you time. Matt Bear Traffic.
Backups are already starting.
On 93 WIBC.
Guy Relford for Tactical Firearms Training. Our most popular class is our Essentials of Indiana Gun Law class. We've got one of those coming up for law enforcement only. This is Essentials of Indiana Gun Law for Cops. It's going to be at City Hall in Columbus, Indiana, hosted by the Columbus Police Department, but available for any law enforcement officer from any department, from anywhere in the state to come in and attend. We'd love to have you there. It's $50 for an individual, $95 for couples. I'm sure your department will pay for it as part of your in-service training. And then we've got, for the rest of us, Essentials of Indiana Gun Law, intended for civilians. It's going to be at Parabellum in Avon. That's Saturday, August 19th. The course for cops is Thursday, 9 a.m. to 2, August 8th in Columbus. And then Saturday, August 19th is the course for civilians, 9 a.m. also to 2 p.m. at Parabellum in Avon. You can register for either one of those at tactical-firearms.com. Just click on upcoming courses at tactical-firearms.com.
My little brother's friends have been camped out at our place for 2 days straight. 3. It's because of the Xfinity 10G network. Internet that can handle a house full of screens at once, with basically no interruptions. And it's only getting faster. When I was their age, internet like this was a pipe dream.
You sound like my grandpa.
Please go home.
The next generation 10G network only from Xfinity. The future starts now. Now through July 30th, new customers can get 200 megabit per second internet on the next generation Xfinity 10G network for just $35 a month for 2 years. Plus, there's no annual contract required and you get Wi-Fi equipment included. Go to Xfinity.com/10G, call 1-800-XFINITY or visit a store today. Requires paperless billing and autopay with stored bank account. Restrictions apply. Taxes and fees extra. After promo, regular rates apply to internet service and devices. Actual speeds vary.
Yeah, the only real estate agent I'd trust to sell my house is Mark Dietel. Listen to what Ben in Indianapolis had to say. I wanted to upgrade into a bigger place, so selling my old place at top dollar was a priority. I hired Mark Dietel, and the team was amazing. I got a great cash offer before going on the market. That included closing costs with no appraisal. I was blown away by the Mark Dietel team.
You got a lot of options in the real estate game, but Mark Dietel is the only real estate expert we trust and recommend with the sale of our homes here at the Hammer and Nigel Show. Mark Dietel guarantees your home sold at a mutually agreed upon price and deadline, or he will buy it. Pick your move date, no long-term contracts, and you can cancel anytime. MarkDietel.com. That's Dietel. MarkDietel.com, or call 755-4232. Tell them Hammer and Nigel sent you.
We may be thousands of miles apart, but we can still connect. And when we do, we make things better. At Child Fund, we connect children all around the world with what they need to grow up healthy, educated, and safe. Together, we co-create connections that help millions of children who live in poverty worldwide, and their families, and their communities, and you. Join us. Together, we can make the world a better place. 2 small worlds at a time. Visit childfund.org to learn more.
Your rights, your responsibilities, your guns. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. And as I mentioned, I screwed up the audio, but as I mentioned during Jefferson Shreve's appearance on the Kendall and Casey Show on Wednesday, he's explaining his position as part of his so-called public safety plan of why he supports gun control and why he's turned his back on the Second Amendment, and for some reason felt the need to bring me up. And here's what he had to say.
Rules and accommodations that I am going to argue for that I think are specific to the challenges that we have right here at home. And you know, Zionsville is a world apart. A guy, Relford, whom I don't know personally, but I certainly respect, lives up in Zionsville. My sister lives in Zionsville. The challenges of public safety in Zionsville are a world apart from other parts of this city. And as a mayoral candidate, I tell you what, I have been in parts of this city that are just so different in terms of what folks have to contend with as they send their kids out the front door.
So I guess
So, and you heard Hammer's voice there. That's because he asked me about this when I appeared on the Hammer and Nigel Show to discuss it later Wednesday after the Kendall and Casey show. So let's break this down a little bit. What Jefferson Shreve is saying is well, I live in Zionsville, which I do. I've mentioned that often publicly. It's on all my social media. My office is in Carmel. Where am I doing this show from right now? On Monument Circle at the beautiful Radio 1, formerly Emmis studio at 40 Monument Circle. Where are most of my cases that I litigate as attorneys? Marion County. Used to be the City County building. Now the courts are down at the new Justice Center on Southeastern. Off of Southeastern. So, you know, where have I been coming to socialize? You know, I had Colts season tickets for 30-some years. Where did I come to those? Marion County. And what he's saying essentially is, I guess if you don't live in Marion County, you don't understand what's going on in Marion County. And that's ludicrous to me. I'm not older than Jefferson Shreve. I dare say I've spent more time in public places in Marion County over my lifetime than Jefferson Shreve has. I was a guy who was accosted by a violent, threatening homeless dude on Monument Circle that I had to have arrested, who was, by the way, prosecuted and convicted of intimidation because he accosted me on Monument Circle. And I spent a hell of a lot of time. I'm there right now. I'm down here twice a week at least to do radio. I'm down here at least 2 or 3 times a week to handle cases in Marion County. And to suggest that I don't understand what's going on in Marion County because I don't live in Marion County is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And guess what? When I'm in Marion County, I'm subjected to the laws of Marion County. You pass an ordinance that affects my Second Amendment rights, that's affecting me every second that I'm in Marion County, wherever I happen to live. And that's true of millions of other people that come and go from this city. And if you think the problem with people now today being unwilling to come downtown, unwilling to come down here, go to the restaurants, to go to the entertainment venues, to go to the sporting events, because they don't trust the city administration to keep them safe. And if they're willing to come down here, people like me at least want to take on the responsibility themselves to keep themselves and their families safe. And you want to inhibit that? For those of us who have to come down here for work, that directly affects me. Don't tell me I can't have an opinion and I don't have valid input on the laws of Marion County that affect me every minute I'm here, including right now while I'm doing this radio show. That's the most ludicrous thing I've ever heard. Oh, Guy Rover doesn't understand the challenges in Marion County. The hell are you talking about? You think I live in my basement in Boone County and never leave? I've got every right to voice an opinion. And you know what? When you go out and espouse what I consider to be an unconstitutional, illegal proposal, and I spend hundreds and hundreds of hours in Marion County every month, you're going to tell me I don't have the right to have an opinion? You're going to tell anybody else who visits Marion County regularly will be subjected to these same laws every minute they cross the county line? We can't have an opinion. We can't voice an opinion. It's kind of ludicrous. He's saying that to Rob Kendall, suggesting I don't deserve to have a valid opinion. And he's saying that apparently he cares about the opinion of Rob Kendall because that's who he's talking to. Where's Rob Kendall live? Brownsburg. That's in Hendricks County. So look, if you don't like what I have to say, then meet me on the merits. Take me on the substance of what I have to say. If I say you're a backstabber and a traitor to the Second Amendment, defend your position and tell me why I'm wrong. What you should not do is tell me I don't have the right to a valid opinion. In the meantime, we're coming up on the top of the hour. It's time to take a break. This is Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Hammer and Nigel.
On the campaign trail, Ron DeSantis went to a couple different places.
I'm a very hardcore Trump supporter. This is the most important vote that we're going to have.
Who would be better at legislating, beating Joe Biden,
restoring this country to what the founding fathers envisioned?
Your heart against your mind. Trump against DeSantis. Who you got?
Hammer and Nigel, weekdays 3 till 7 on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Do you need air conditioning service and are looking for a local dealer you can trust, like Marshall Mechanical in Franklin? Find that American Standard Air dealer at IndyHomeComfort.com.
Whether you're an experienced firearms owner or are just thinking about getting a new firearm, Atkinson Firearms in Greenwood has everything you need. With brands like Glock, Smith & Wesson, Canik, Colt, Henry, SIG, and much more. If Atkinson Firearms doesn't have it, they can get it. Plus accessories, from holsters to ammo and everything between. Atkinson Firearms is firefighter owned and veteran staff with a new larger location. Follow Atkinson Firearms on Facebook. Atkinson Firearms, off County Line Road next to the Greenwood Airport.
Attorney Joe Cordell.
Divorce forces a father to focus on what's most important, his children. You may no longer be a husband, but you'll always be a dad. In the divorce process, this comes down to 3 key concerns: physical custody, decision-making, as well as financial support. Each of these is important, and it's important that you choose a lawyer that cares as much about these issues as you do.
Schedule an appointment with one of Cordell & Cordell's Indianapolis area attorneys. 101 West Ohio Street, Suite 1250, Indianapolis, Indiana 46204.
The Indiana State Fair is back, and so is American Dairy Association Indiana's famous and fabulous State Fair Dairy Bar. From July 28th through August 20th, we'll be serving up all the great dairy bar treats you've been craving, like our rich and creamy signature milkshakes, scrumptious grilled cheese sandwiches, thirst-quenching ice-cold milk, and more. This year's featured treats include the Italian Melt Grilled Cheese, a sensational melding of provolone with basil pesto on sourdough, plus the return of our biggest selling shake ever, the Mint Cookie Milkshake, a chocolatey delight topped with crumbled Girl Scout Thin Mint cookies, the Dairy Bar, a great Indiana State Fair tradition. We're on Main Street opposite the Indiana Farmers Coliseum, and we're open every day during the fair from 9 to 9. See you there.
Brought to you by American Dairy Association Indiana, your Hoosier Dairy Farm families. Find out more at wintersdrinkmilk.com.
When I was younger, I may have did some stupid things, even committed some crimes, but I am not a criminal.
I work for youth advocate programs. Yeah, I was Tamani's advocate, helping him stay out of jail, stay in the neighborhood, and get a job.
As a little kid, I experienced trauma and I acted out. Made some mistakes, but I'm not a mistake.
As Jalen's YAP advocate, I'm always here for her.
YAP is a community-based alternative to youth incarceration and neighborhood violence. Youth advocate programs. Learn how at yapinc.org.
To protect his family from disaster, Steve used his camera phone. Done. By taking pictures of his important documents, Steve can always have them stored online. Learn more simple disaster prep tips at ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
When you're high, you feel different. But if you feel different, you drive different. So don't drive high. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Broadcasting from the Peterman Brothers Heating, Plumbing, and Electrical Studios, this is Indy's Mobile News, 93 WIBC. WIBC HD1 Indianapolis. The news starts now.
Battleground, Iowa. I'm Ann Carrick, Fox News. Republicans running for president next year made their case to Iowa voters last night.
Former President Trump talked about having the most secure border in American history. He talked about his polling numbers being better than Ron DeSantis's and slammed Joe Biden's foreign policy, specifically Afghanistan. Vivek Ramaswamy, he said he would shut down several federal agencies, including the FBI, the IRS, the ATF, and the CDC. He talked about restoring pride in America and filling a void in the minds of young people with patriotism and hard work. And then former Vice President Mike Pence got on stage as well. He called for a 15-week abortion ban at the federal level. He also told the GOP it's time to resist the politics of personality, potentially a shot at his former president Donald Trump.
Fox's Bill Malugin in Des Moines. The first Republican presidential caucus is in Iowa, January 15th. President Biden at his home in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, for a 10-day vacation. Before heading to the beach, he touted his economic policies.
President Biden starting his vacation first in Maine, speaking at a textile factory to boast about the economy. Now, economists push back on that, saying inflation is not coming down. It's still increasing, just at a decreased rate. Inflation was up 3% last month compared to the year before, when it was up 9%. And anyone who goes to the grocery store knows food prices continue to increase, and fuel prices are back on the rise, now at an 8-month high. Americans owe $1 trillion in credit card debt. The vice president speaking across the country with a different message, acknowledging the hardship many Americans are facing.
Fox's Lucas Tomlinson in Washington. The Mega Millions jackpot climbs to more than $1 billion after another drawing with no big winner. The next drawing is Tuesday night. No one has won the Mega Millions jackpot since April. Your chances now, they're $1.05 billion. That's what you're playing for. Good luck. America is listening to Fox News.
Stay on top of the latest forecast with America's Weather Team in the palm of your hands.
Here's the latest from America's Weather Center.
It's Fox weather updates throughout your busy day, every day.
5 inches of rain by tomorrow.
Temperatures being 30 degrees above average.
Put the power of over 100 meteorologists and the worldwide resources of Fox in your hands with the Fox Weather Podcast. Precise, personal, powerful. Subscribe and listen now at foxnewspodcasts.com. Connect to Fox News Audio on the Fox News app. Listen to hear your favorite hosts like Brian Kilmeade, Jimmy Fallon, and Guy Benson standing up for what's right, live and via podcast. Just click listen, then swipe right and hear the latest news updates on your time. And scroll down to hear the latest podcasts from Fox News. And it's even easier to listen in the car with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Get programming alerts and notifications. Fox News Audio is on the Fox News app. The voices America trusts. Download it now.
93 WIBC Mobile News. On the level, on the go.
Getting ready for another work week. I'm Sasha Nixon. Here's what's trending this hour. You may be pleased to know that some slightly cooler air has been moving into central Indiana this weekend. The benefits of this should extend into the first part of your work week.
Monday looks like highs are going to be in the low 80s, so it should feel much more comfortable by Monday.
That's Aaron Updike, meteorologist with the National Weather Service, Indianapolis. With a new academic year looming, schools around the state are desperately looking for additional staff. Indianapolis Public Schools are looking for about 150 teachers alone. Statewide, there are more than 3,000 job openings, according to the Indiana Department of Education. The Charlestown Police Department released information Friday about a cold case arrest they made last week. John Herrick explains.
They believe David Hollowell broke into a home and raped a 13-year-old girl on April 14, 2003, and then shot her stepfather. The stepfather survived, but he has very serious brain injuries. The girl made it out alive, too, but she's been dealing with mental trauma from the event in the last 20 years. Police said many things helped lead to Hollowell's arrest, including advancements in forensic DNA technology. John Herrick, 93, WIBC Mobile News.
While it may not be an official holiday, Saturday was National Lasagna Day. In honor of the occasion, you might want to get a plate of the high-calorie food this weekend. Learn more at WIBC.com. On the level, on the go, and on WIBC.com. Now here's the forecast from the American Standard Cooling Weather Center.
This afternoon and evening going to continue to be hot and humid, although not quite as bad as it was on Friday, with partly to mostly cloudy skies. That'll continue overnight with a low temperature near 65 degrees as we wake up on Sunday morning. I'm Wish TV Storm Track 8 meteorologist Drew Narsutis for 93 WIBC.
My name is Juanita Segura, and I was diagnosed in November of 2014 with non-small cell lung cancer. The first time I heard about biomarker testing was actually my husband. He just started researching about lung cancer.
And I found out about biomarker testing, and I'm like, why not? Let's try it.
I'm Dr. Jorge Gomez, thoracic medical oncologist at the Mount Sinai Hospital. Comprehensive biomarker testing is looking for either substances in the blood or mutations in some of the genes of the cancer cells that can help us identify special types of lung cancer that can be treated with what we call targeted therapies.
Letting my children know brought all of us a sense of hope. To give them hope that mom is going to be around to see you grow up. And I promised them that.
Ask your doctor about how comprehensive biomarker testing before treatment may help you and your doctor decide on the best treatment for you. Visit noonemiss.org for more.
A public service message from Longevity Foundation. I asked what kind of family she wanted. She said, a family like yours.
Learn more about adopting a teen at adoptuskids.org. You can't imagine the reward. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Now you've got a gun guy. Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back for hour number 2 of the Gun Guy Show here on 93 WIBC. Today, having wrapped up the discussion on Indy mayoral candidate, quote-unquote Republican, Jefferson Shreve. Tell you what, we've had some people on hold for quite some time. Let's go to the phone lines. Chris, thanks for your patience, man. Thanks for calling the Gun Guy Show. Chris, you still there, brother?
Yeah. I was just going to say, I appreciate everything you do, man. I think you're the only one for Indiana.
I appreciate that a lot.
Anyway, I think Jefferson Shreve, I think he's the same thing as Governor Holcomb on a smaller scale. In a he's in a Democrat costume, is how I see it.
Yeah, I mean, well, why do you equate him to Governor Holcomb, Chris?
Because Governor Holcomb, he's a Democrat too. I mean, he ain't a Republican.
Okay, all right. Well, listen, Governor Holcomb got a lot of criticism from a lot of people, and on some things, me too, especially through the pandemic, and a lot of people were hoping for leadership more like Ron DeSantis, frankly, governor in Florida, or Kristi Noem, governor of South Dakota, which didn't have a lockdown. And a lot of people looked at some of those governors and said, man, I want one of those. But when it comes to, and I understand that criticism, by the way, and I participated in it to some degree. I always said at the same time, though, I can't imagine being in a job like governor during something so unprecedented. And that doesn't mean that a lot of us weren't disappointed, if not outraged, at some of the lockdowns and the restrictions and the policies. And a lot of people were upset by that. There were some bills, some more conservative bills that he vetoed that people were disappointed in. I think the protection of female athletics bill, or if you want to call it the transgender sports bill, people were disappointed in. But one thing I always want to give Governor Holcomb credit for is he signed constitutional carry. And there was a lot of pressure on him to not sign it. And in fact, he had not been a very vocal supporter of it. In fact, he wasn't a supporter of it at all. And he had said historically that he didn't want to do anything that was quote unquote opposed by police. And I think there he had Superintendent Doug Carter having a big influence on him. Superintendent Carter, who I consider a friend, by the way. And we could not have been more adverse in the hearings. I mean, we went at each other in some of the committee hearings on constitutional carry and things we said to the media. And we were directly adverse. But you know what? Before those hearings and afterward, I always shook his hand. If not, give him a hug. And I like Doug Carter, and I respect him a lot. But he clearly had Governor Holcomb's ear. And Governor Holcomb, even during the debate, if you remember, before he was reelected for his last term, I mean, he's termed out now, but before he was reelected in the debate, we had Libertarian Donald Rainwater, who was all in on constitutional carry. In fact, he had my organization's website, the 2A Project. He had a link to our website on his campaign page saying how he supported the 2A Project and he supported constitutional carry. And listen, I never endorsed Donald Rainwater, but he was all in on constitutional carry. And when that came up during the debate, after Rainwater said, "Oh yeah, I believe that law-abiding citizens shouldn't have to ask permission from the government to exercise a constitutional right," when it went over to Governor Holcomb, he said, "Well, I don't want to do anything that's opposed by our police officers." And listen, not all police officers oppose constitutional carry. We hear that all the time now. Jefferson Shreve. You're probably rolling your eyes going, "Oh God, he's going to go back to Jefferson Shreve." He said, "Oh well, all police officers oppose this." No, they don't. We had at the committee hearing in the Public Policy Committee last year, right after the bill was introduced, the bill that ultimately got passed, signed into law, we had more police officers show up to support it than did to oppose it. Now, they brought out a whole lot more people when we went over to the Senate, and they had Senator Liz Brown chairing that committee, who was very hostile to us, even though she's a quote-unquote Republican as well. And well, we had like 4 or 5 different members of the Fort Wayne Police Department that all showed up to testify. So a lot of cops came in to testify, and obviously Superintendent Carter as well, and others. IMPD showed up to oppose it, but not all. Elected sheriffs showed up to support it. The sheriff in Hamilton County, where I have my office, where I grew up, Dennis Quakenbush, showed up to support it. Not all law enforcement opposed it. But at the end of the day, even though I know, here's someone on his cabinet that is Superintendent Carter. He's on the governor's staff and has a lot of access to him. And I'm sure he was pushing the governor to veto constitutional carry. And he didn't. He signed it. Now, I think we had the votes, which in Indiana, all it takes is a simple majority to override a veto, which happened on the transgender sports bill. And I think it would have happened on constitutional carry, but we didn't have to because the governor signed it. And you know what? I believe in being a critic where it's due, but I also believe in giving credit where it's due. And I think that's true and when it comes to Governor Holcomb and his support for the Second Amendment, at least in signing constitutional carry, which was a big, big deal. And it's nothing I'll ever minimize and something I still appreciate. Let's go back to the phone lines. John's been on hold for a while. John, you had a question?
Yeah, Guy, I got two questions. First one, what would you recommend as a insurance for a Second Amendment if I'd use my gun and then need legal help?
Yeah, well, John, I always answer that this way, and that is that I have had insurance through the Concealed Carry Association, the U.S. Concealed Carry Association, USCCA, since 2012. So for 11 years, I've had that insurance. I think I've got their platinum level. I pay for it. It's a little bit of money every month. The coverage limits are nice and high. I get to pick my own lawyer. Now, full disclosure, I haven't done it in a couple of years, but for a year or two, they had me coming in to teach what they call their self-defense legal seminars. It'd be an hour, and it would be like 45 minutes of me talking about the law of self-defense, and then it was 15 minutes of really what was a sales pitch to get people to buy their insurance, and they paid me a little bit of money for that. So full disclosure, if anybody wants to, put an asterisk next to my endorsement because they paid me some money, but they haven't done that. I think they've talked somebody else into doing it for free because they haven't had me do that in a couple of years. But I guarantee you, I've paid them a hell of a lot more money than they've paid me. So anyway, I've had USCCA. John, was that your only question?
No, I have a question.
Okay, man. We appreciate you calling. And here quickly before we take a break at the quarter hour, let's go back to the phone lines. Rob has called. Rob, welcome to the Gun Guy Show.
Thank you. Hey, I got a quick question on the recent Supreme Court ruling on silencers.
No, Rob, we don't have a Supreme Court ruling on silencers. There are cases out there going up through the system, but I'm not sure what you read. What did you think the Supreme Court said about silencers?
Well, they ruled on a Texas case where Texas decided that Texas citizens don't have to register their silencers on the NFA as long as the silencer is manufactured in Texas and is owned by a Texas resident.
Yeah, that was a lower court ruling, Rob, and the Supreme Court, SCOTUS, has not yet ruled on that. So that doesn't affect us yet here in Indiana. In fact, no other court opinion has come out on that. So a lot of times people see rulings from lower courts. A lot of times you'll see it's from a state Supreme Court or even a state lower court, and then all of a sudden it's rolling around the internet that the Supreme Court has ruled this way or that way. And no, we don't have that ruling from the U.S. Supreme Court case yet, but I'd love to see it. I'd love to see suppressors taken out of the National Firearms Act altogether. They're an accessory that make them, for the most part, on a lot of firearms anyway, hearing safe. In as restrictive as the UK, as England is on guns. They're incredibly restrictive. There are places, if you're going to shoot a gun in public, you have to use a suppressor. And that's the United Kingdom. As oppressive as they are on firearms, they see use of a suppressor as simply being a good neighbor and as a safety device to help make a gun hearing safe. Why on God's earth would we treat that like the other things regulated under the National Firearms Act? I think the whole National Firearms Act just ought to go away. But of all the ludicrous things in the National Firearms Act, the fact that we include suppressors within that, I guarantee, I know where it came from. In 1934, members of Congress were watching, gangster movies about Al Capone or John Dillinger or who knows what. And they were like, oh my God, these people have silencers, which by the way is a brand name from the guy who invented the suppressor, Hiram Percy Maxim, excuse me. And that was his brand name. They don't silence anything. But anyway, some member of Congress looked at that and we're going to have these ninja assassins running around with silencers and they're going to be murdering people left and right and nobody's going to know it. And not even understanding what the technology does and doesn't do. So it's dumb. I wish we'd have them taken out. And I'd love to see a Supreme Court case that said what you mentioned, but we haven't seen that yet. Right now, we're a little past the quarter hour. We're taking a break. This is Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Tony Katz.
I alphabetized my soundboard. Well, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. F?
Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, son.
I have to go to S for Sopranos. Makes sense.
Yeah, I think you got it.
It's so clean now. It's fantastic. Yeah, we have clearly run out of things to talk about. There's nothing else going on in the world.
It's a great world, everything's so.
This show is stupid.
Tony Katz, mornings 6 to 9 on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Guy Relford for Tactical Firearms Training. Our most popular classes are Essentials of Indiana Gun Law class, and we've got a couple of those coming up. We've got Essentials of Indiana Gun Law for Cops. This is 5 hours, the most important legal information that a police officer needs to know about Indiana gun laws, and that's coming up 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Thursday, August 8th. It's going to be in the Columbus Police Department. It's going to be in City Hall. It's hosted by the Columbus Police Department, but it's going to be in City Hall there in Columbus. It's $50 for an individual, $95 for couples. And then we've got Essentials of Indiana Gun Law for the rest of us, the non-law enforcement officers. That's coming up on Saturday, August 19th. 9 a.m. also to 2 p.m. It's going to be at Parabellum in Avon. A beautiful, nice, big, comfortable classroom there at Parabellum. We'd love to have you join us. Also, $50 for an individual, $95 for couples. You can register right online. Just go to tactical-firearms.com and click on upcoming courses at tactical-firearms.com.
Tony Katz here for Premier Arms in Brownsburg. This is your premier gun store. Premier Arms has the experience and know-how to help the new gun buyer and the most experienced marksman. They've been in business for over 20 years and have a friendly, knowledgeable staff that wants to help you, not talk down to you. Premier Arms in Brownsburg is family-friendly, so bring the kids. All ages are welcome. Everyone can find what they're looking for at Premier Arms in Brownsburg, 3754 South Green Street. Online at premierarms.com. Tell them Tony Katz sent you, premierarms.com.
Everyone's talking about Galaxy Concrete Coatings and their transformation, like your neighbor Jerry.
When we first started looking for different options, we went to the internet. Really, we did choose Galaxy and definitely happy that we did. We first had our front porch and our pool deck done. Decided we loved it so much, we had them out about 10, 11 months later to finish up and do our back porch.
Commercial or residential, 4 times stronger than epoxy, and it comes with a 15-year warranty.
The crews at Galaxy were great. They actually cared about my property, very punctual, knowledgeable, and just a great group of workers.
Galaxy Concrete Coatings works for any area like patios, garage floors, driveways, and around pools.
I'm 100% satisfied. It's not slippery and it's not hot. I was very impressed with the product. It's amazing that I don't burn my feet and my 6-year-old doesn't fall.
Click on GalaxyConcreteCoatings.com and remember to like us on Facebook, GalaxyConcreteCoatings.com. We are out of this world.
Having low income can mean making tough choices. Choosing between paying for food or medication or a place to live is a reality for many people. Do you know someone who could use some extra help? Find out about the Supplemental Security Income Program, SSI, administered by Social Security. You could receive monthly SSI payments if your income and financial resources are low and you are 65 or older, or an adult or child with a disability or who is blind. SSI is money you can use to help pay for basic needs, like putting food on the table, keeping the lights on, paying the rent. It can mean new shoes for growing feet or help with medical needs. Call 1-800-772-1213 or visit ssa.gov/SSI to schedule an appointment or start to apply today. That's ssa.gov/SSI. This message produced by Social Security at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Teachers shape the future. Right now, in a classroom somewhere in the United States, there's a teacher inspiring a future scientist who'll make preventing pandemics their life's work. Sharpening the mind of an aspiring environmentalist who'll help combat climate change. And generating possibilities for a student who'll be the first in their family to graduate college. Explore a career that leaves a legacy you can be proud of. Teach. Learn more and receive free support at teach.org.
Life is all about enjoying the little moments. Don't miss out on them because of unexpected heart issues. At Community Health Network, you receive heart care you can trust. From simple screenings to life-saving diagnostic and interventional cardiology services, we offer it all, so you can get back to the moments that matter. Learn more about our services at ecommunity.com/heart. Community Health Network. Exceptional care simply delivered.
Pierce Jewelers wants you to know the diamond world has changed. You can choose mined or lab-grown diamonds. Unlike chain stores, Pierce Jewelers carries both. They can educate and help you save your hard-earned money.
The Indianapolis Public Library. More than just books. Visit your local branch today.
He's a Second Amendment attorney. He's an NRA certified firearms instructor. He's the gun guy. Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. We're so glad you're with us. We are broadcasting here from the beautiful studio at Radio 1, which is 40 Monument Circle. I'm enjoying the heck out of my day. I got to ride the Harley down here since the weather held out for me. Hope it still is. We have these little pop-up thunderstorms all the time this time of year. It feels like Florida, both in terms of the temperature, and then we get these little pop-up thunderstorms that nobody ever predicts. But hey, if it happens, it happens. Wouldn't be the first time since I've been riding motorcycles my whole damn life. So we had a caller come in, and by the way, we had great callers join the discussion here. You know, we've got 3 more segments left. Give us a call, 317-239-9393. Always enjoy hearing from our listeners. And you can join the discussion with your questions. But a listener asked about a Supreme Court ruling on suppressors. Well, we haven't seen that yet. But there is a case that's now in front of the Supreme Court. And look, it's there on sort of a preliminary matter. But this could turn into a big deal, and it may end up back in the Supreme Court here at some point for a complete substantive ruling on the merits, as we say. And that is on the so-called frames and receivers ruling that we got from the ATF here not too long ago. If you remember, as part of President Biden's so-called gun safety plan, which is just the anti-Second Amendment plan. But one of the things they did, they said they were worried about ghost guns, right? Guns that don't have serial numbers on them. And so in order to combat this problem they see with quote-unquote ghost guns, they issued a ruling that basically says that a kit that simply includes some of the parts to make a gun should be regulated like a gun. And that those people who sell these kits have to be licensed as firearms instructors, as firearms sellers, what we call an FFL, a federal firearms licensee. And then anyone who buys them has to go through a background check, and then they have to be serialized. And it's really turned the wording of Congress, in terms of Congress's definition of firearm, right on its head, because that's never been the interpretation. And interesting, and importantly, this is the ATF deciding really to change the words of a federal statute, including the definition of firearm, that was passed by Congress without going back to Congress. And I got to tell you, when we see these things on gun control, we have to some degree trace some responsibility back where it belongs. And that's with President Trump. Listen, do I wish President Trump won the election? A lot of people think he did anyway. But do I wish he was our president today instead of Joe Biden? Of course I did. Did I enthusiastically vote for him again? Yes. But one thing that we have to be honest about, which is that President Trump, after the horrific mass shooting in Las Vegas, still the most deadly mass shooting we've seen in the United States ever in history. And that shooter, even though there's so much we don't know, I'll guarantee you, I'm not much of a conspiracy theory guy at all. You very rarely hear me talk about conspiracy theories here on the Gun Guy Show. There's something totally weird and stuff, and that we don't know, the public does not know about that shooting, about that shooter, about who was or wasn't also involved, why he had that number of guns in his hotel room there at Mandalay Bay, overlooking the country music festival, where he reportedly broke some windows out and started shooting. But he supposedly used a bump stock, if not more than one. And President Trump came out soon after that. Again, worst mass shooting we've ever seen. And President Trump said, bump stocks are gone. The NRA, which requires some accountability here too. NRA came out and said, we invite the ATF to re-examine the legality of bump stocks. Well, the NRA endorses it. President Trump orders it. But what were we talking about? We're talking about changing the definition of machine gun in a federal statute, the National Firearms Act of 1934, so as to outlaw bump stocks. And that's exactly what the ATF did. They rewrote their interpretation, quote unquote, of the definition of machine gun. And listen, machine gun's got a very straightforward definition in the National Firearms Act. And that is, if you only get one bullet per trigger pull, it's not a machine gun. If you pull the trigger one time and you get more than one bullet, now it's an automatic firearm, can be regulated as a machine gun. That's pretty easy. A bump stock does not convert a firearm into a machine gun. You still pull the trigger for every bullet that leaves the barrel. A bump stock allows a gun to essentially, it facilitates it. By the way, there's plenty of other ways to do it. I've seen people do it with a rubber band. I've seen people do it with a belt loop. Hook your thumb into your belt loop, hold the gun at the hip, and allow the gun to essentially bounce back and forth. And if you keep your finger rigid, essentially in one location, that's what a bump stock does. The gun essentially bounces off your shoulder, and as it bounces back and forth off your shoulder, just holding your finger rigid allows you to pull the trigger very, very quickly. But you still only get one bullet per trigger pull. ATF had to completely get creative and change the wording of Congress in its interpretation to quote unquote ban bump stocks. And listen, machine guns aren't banned. But in 1986, Congress passed what we call the Hughes Amendment, which basically said that they were putting a moratorium on the importation or sale of any machine guns that weren't registered as of that date. So you have to, in order to have a machine gun today as a civilian, it has to be transferable. What's that mean? It means it was manufactured or imported before April of 1986. Otherwise, it's illegal. Bump stocks hadn't been invented, or at least weren't on the market before 1986. So any bump stock, by definition, didn't make that deadline. So they're all damn illegal, and you can't go register them after the fact. So essentially, they outlawed bump stocks. And that was at the behest, that was on the order of President Trump, with the endorsement and approval of NRA. And so since then, what have we seen the ATF do under President Biden? With that precedent, and I'm sorry, we have to acknowledge it for what it is, as much as I wish President Trump was our president instead of Biden, he owes some accountability on this, because now the brace rule that we've talked about here many times, what's that? That's the ATF making up its own rule. The frames and receivers ruling that we're talking about here, that's just ATF making up its own rule that changes the meaning of a federal statute written by Congress. And that's now being litigated. A court in Texas has found that the ATF never had the authority to do what it did. It never had the authority to change the wording of Congress. That now, in a particular form, is in front of the Supreme Court of the United States. We're a little past the bottom of the hour. I'll go into detail on what that means and what we may see out of this when we come back. In the meantime, join the discussion, 317-239-9393. We still have a couple of segments to go. Give us a call, 317-239-9393. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Kendall and Casey.
61% of Americans are more afraid of running out of money in their old age.
It's not that surprising.
I saw a meme and I just thought it was everything. It was like, okay, so Europeans, I'm going to take the summer off because I want a suntan. Americans, I'm going to take 3 days off to have open heart surgery.
Kendall and Casey, weekdays 9 till noon on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
AE Ammo is Greenwood's ammunition superstore. The largest variety in training, hunting, and self-defense ammo with the best prices locally guaranteed. Factory new 9mm FMJ ammo starting at $12 per 50-round box. Factory new 50-round boxes, $380 from $14.99 and $45 ACP from $18.99. And with the AE Ammo Customer Rewards Program, start earning points today towards money back to use on future purchases. Shop in-store or online at aeammo.com.
You expect your home to protect everything you love, but you don't expect the ways water is breaking down your crawl space and damaging your home. Musty smells, sagging floors, mold are just a few signs your crawl space is compromised. But there's one way to get answers to all your concerns. A free home inspection from Indiana Foundation Service. We put water back in its place. Get your free inspection at indianafoundation.com.
Attorney Joe Cordell. Divorce forces a father to focus on what's most important, his children. You may no longer be a husband, but you'll always be a dad. In the divorce process, this comes down to three key concerns: physical custody, decision-making, as well as financial support. Each of these is important, and it's important that you choose a lawyer that cares as much about these issues as you do.
Schedule an appointment with one of Cordell & Cordell's Indianapolis area attorneys. 101 West Ohio Street, Suite 1250, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46204.
This time next week, I'll be sick in bed with West Nile virus, thanks to a mosquito bite right in front of my house.
In 8 minutes, my daughter will be in an ambulance, having an asthma attack, triggered by cockroaches.
I'm going to be bitten by a tick today. I won't even know it until Lyme disease turns my life upside down.
Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org. A public service message from the National Pest Management Association and the CDC.
This hour on 93 WIBC, powered by Pierce Jewelers, Carmel's lab-grown or mined diamond store.
Fox News, I'm Paul Stevens. A tentative deal likely avoiding a UPS Teamster strike.
I think people are fed up with high CEO pay and record payout stock dividends. And, like I've said many times before, the people that make these corporations and companies a success need to reward the people that are the unsung heroes getting it done for them every single day.
Teamsters President Sean O'Brien on Fox's Cavuto Live. Iowa Republicans now thinking about what they heard from Republican White House candidates Friday night at the Lincoln Day dinner.
Every candidate, including those that are leading the field, but also the candidates that are working on name recognition, they all had something. It was very obvious they had something that they wanted to emphasize with the voters. It was obvious that they had thought out those 10 minutes. Some of them ended with only seconds to spare.
Iowa GOP Chair Jeff Kaufman, America's listening to Fox News.
Get 3 rooms of carpet cleaned for $139 and a free hallway and $50 off air duct cleaning with Zero Res. 388-5141. Online at ZeroResIndy.com.
And Doug. With Liberty Mutual, you can customize your car insurance to save hundreds. Here's what those savings sound like in dollar bills. Here's what it sounds like in quarters. And here's what that sounds like in cryptocurrency, a thing I totally understand. 1010, I am money, cha-ching, beep boop, $.
Only pay for what you need at LibertyMutual.com. Savings may vary. Underwritten by Liberty Mutual Insurance Company and affiliates. Excludes Massachusetts.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online? Just go to 4hims.com/joy. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and trusted generic alternatives to the name brands at up to 95% off. That's right, get generic for Viagra, the same active ingredient as brand name Viagra, but for 95% less. It's the same medication, still prescribed by a licensed medical provider, but with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, 4hims.com/joy. That's 4hims.com/joy for your free online visit. FORHIMS.com/JOY.
If you can plan barbecues and weddings, you can plan to protect yourself from a natural disaster. Sign up for local alerts, prepare an emergency kit, and make a family communications plan. Get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Indy Humane. Find your new best friend today. Visit indyhumane.org.
Second to none on the Second Amendment. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. So why is this frames of receivers ruling from ATF? Where basically they're saying, and it goes into more detail than this, but basically they're saying parts of guns are guns too and should be regulated just like guns. And that's a gross simplification, but that's what we're talking about. And if you sell parts of a gun with instructions or a template to build it into a gun, that enhances the likelihood it's going to be regulated as a firearm. And that's what a court in Texas found that the ATF had no authority to do because they didn't have the ability to rewrite the words of Congress. I think that's true when it comes to President Trump's bump stock ban. It's true of the pistol stabilizer brace rule. It's true of this frames and receivers rule as well. And that's why courts are striking it down, and that's what happened in Texas. Well, what happened is then the federal government, specifically Merrick Garland, the Attorney General, went to the court and said, please stay the effect of this ruling until we can appeal this to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. That's the federal appellate court that has jurisdiction over Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi. And since this ruling came out of a Texas federal court, that's where the appeal would go. And that request for a stay, meaning don't allow this to go into effect yet, meaning that would prohibit the ATF from enforcing that rule within those 3 states. The court said, no, we're not issuing a stay. You can appeal if you want, but in the meantime, the ruling strikes this down. And by the way, I just misspoke. The ruling, I believe, was in the Northern District of Texas. It was in one particular district within the state of Texas. So that's the geographic extent of its ruling right now. If the Fifth Circuit were to affirm it and uphold that ruling, then it would be good for the whole state of Texas and Louisiana and Mississippi as well. But at any rate, they asked the court to stay the effect of that ruling. And the court said no. So Merrick Garland, Joe Biden's Attorney General, ran to the Supreme Court and is now asking the Supreme Court to stay the effect of the ruling, pending the appeal to the Fifth Circuit. The Supreme Court can just deny it without really saying anything about it. They can grant the request, which is to say, yeah, the effect of this ruling is stayed pending appeal. And they could do that without any real comment, or they can go into some substance and talk about why it is they're either denying or granting the stay. In other words, we could get some indication from SCOTUS, and I'm not predicting this, but it's a possibility, on where they're likely to go on this ruling. But I got to tell you, ultimately, whether only from the Fifth Circuit, and much more interestingly, whatever happens in the Fifth Circuit when it goes back up to the Supreme Court, what's really intriguing is if we could get a Supreme Court ruling at the end of the day, and this isn't going to happen anytime soon. But after it makes its way through the Fifth Circuit, if we could get a Supreme Court ruling on what the ATF does and doesn't have the authority to do. And this Supreme Court, in a case called West Virginia versus EPA, came out and was very limited, very restricted in terms of what it said the power of a federal agency is to craft regulation under a federal statute, and essentially said Congress has to have specifically authorized the discretion of authority that administrative agency is undertaking in writing a rule This is particularly true when a rule can put people in jail that a federal agency is very restricted, and they have to be expressly delegated, expressly authorized by Congress to have gone down that road and exercised that legislative ability as an agency, which is part of the executive branch, meaning they're not part of the legislature at all. Why are they passing laws, essentially, that can put people in jail when they're not part of the legislature? That's the point. And if the Supreme Court follows, really, that same rationale that it did in an EPA case, had nothing to do with guns. It had to do clean air or clean water. I don't recall as I sit here right now. We could get a fabulous ruling that finally reins back in the ATF on these issues, because it's been completely out of control for some time. In the meantime, before we take a break, we're coming up on the 3/4 hour, but John called, and John had a question. John, welcome to the Gun Guy Show.
Thank you, Guy. Hey, I've got a question regarding constitutional carry. Can a non-Indiana resident visiting in the state carry constitutionally?
Does it apply to non-residents, John? I'm getting a little background noise, but is that your question? Is it just Indiana residents or non-residents as well?
Yeah, exactly. Can a non-resident visiting in Indiana carry?
Yes, and in Indiana, like most other states that passed it, applies constitutional carry to both residents and non-residents. So the answer to your question, John, is yes. And it's anyone in Indiana over 18 who's not legally prohibited by state or federal law from possessing a gun can carry a handgun without a license in Indiana. There are now 26 states, including Indiana, that have passed constitutional carry. Of those 25 other states, as passed, originally 24 of them wrote their constitutional carry laws exactly like Indiana, meaning they applied to residents and non-residents. North Dakota was the only state that said, no, you have to be a North Dakota resident for constitutional carry to apply to you. In other words, to carry a handgun without a license within North Dakota. North Dakota then went back just recently and amended their constitutional carry statute to have it apply to non-residents as well. So now all 26 states that have constitutional carry allow both residents and non-residents to carry, and Indiana is included within that, John, which is the answer to your question. And thanks so much for calling the Gun Guy Show. Tell you what, with the 3/4 hour, we're taking a break. We'll be back for the last segment of the Gun Guy Show here on 93 WIBC.
Stopped on 465
from
again.
the north side.
We haven't moved on 37
to the south side.
Avoid south side 465
to the west side.
Yeah, stopped on westbound 465
to
again.
the east side.
Gridlock all the way through the east side.
Traffic's a bear.
Drove into a ditch through the tree line.
And
just
Matt Bear.
Traffic stop on the right.
He's a beast.
Traffic jam of epic proportion.
Helping you navigate the.
Oh, come on.
And the.
Let's go.
And the. With Matt Bear Traffic. Mornings and afternoons on 93 WIBC.
Guy Relford for Tactical Firearms Training. And our most popular class is Essentials of Indiana Gun Law. We've got a couple of those coming up. We've got one for cops only. This is law enforcement officers. Law enforcement from any department in the state are welcome to attend. It's going to be at City Hall in Columbus, hosted by the Columbus Police Department, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. That's $50 for an individual, $95 for couples. We'd love to see you there. That's a Thursday, August 8th. 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then we've got a class for the rest of us, that is civilians, Essentials of Indiana Gun Law. It's going to be Saturday, August 19th at Parabellum Indoor Range and Firearms, also 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. That's on a Saturday on August 19th. $50 for an individual, $95 for couples. We'd love to see you there. You can register right online at tactical-firearms.com. Just click on upcoming courses at tactical-firearms.com.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org. This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
Whether you're an experienced firearms owner or just thinking about getting a new firearm, Atkinson Firearms in Greenwood has everything you need. With brands like Glock, Smith & Wesson, Canik, Colt, Henry, SIG, and much more.
If Atkinson Firearms doesn't have it, they can get it, plus accessories, from holsters to ammo and everything between. Atkinson Firearms is firefighter owned and veteran staff with a new larger location. Follow Atkinson Firearms on Facebook. Atkinson Firearms, off County Line Road next to the Greenwood Airport.
Drought and environmental pressure has taken a toll on crops this year. Tyler Harp with Syngenta joins me today. Tyler, talk to us about the new premium fungicides and how they can help.
The difference is the plant health capacity of these fungicides. Benefits that are above and beyond disease control. You'll actually see that the leaves are greener. We've proven in the laboratory that there's more light energy that a leaf absorbs to make energy. So when we simulated drought stress, we show more photochemistry than the untreated. Even more important is water conservation. Because water translocates nutrients, you get some nutrient use efficiency by default. For example, when a corn crop gets to early R5, it's not uncommon to see that mid-vein necrosis where the plant is starting running out of nitrogen. But we don't see that when a plant health fungicides apply. We also can tell when the leaves curl up, you have less leaf curl. And these newer chemistries have the ability to reduce the transpiration rate of the leaf, but yet have no impact on the photosynthesis production for the plant.
Find out more about the new fungicide chemistries at boostyourbushels.com.
My name is Jamie Bowles, and I was diagnosed with non-small cell lung cancer in December of 2018. Nobody would even know looking at me that I have stage 4 lung cancer, and I'm grateful for biomarker testing for that. When I was sitting down with my oncologist, there was already state-of-the-art medication available that I was going to be put on right then and there. Ask your doctor how comprehensive biomarker testing before treatment may help you decide on the best treatment. Visit noonemissed.org to learn more.
A public service message from Longevity Foundation.
Garage door problems? Call today for service today. Garage Doors of Indianapolis has been solving garage door problems for 33 years. Call today for service today. 875-4577. Garage Doors of Indianapolis services all makes of garage doors 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Call today for service today. Get it fixed right now. Call Garage Doors of Indianapolis at 875-4577 or visit doorstoday.com.
In the morning, call 875-4577. Service today.
Children are placed in foster care through no fault of their own. Because of abuse or neglect, it's heartbreaking.
We were just left in a hotel.
Tay and his brothers were adopted with help from the Dave Thomas Foundation for Adoption. But more than 100,000 children in the U.S. are still waiting for a family.
Now that I'm adopted, I can focus on being a kid.
Learn how you can help at davethomasfoundation.org.
There's a lot of sexy content on the internet. And there's WIBC, full of faces meant for radio. Hammer and Nigel, Kendall and Casey. Okay, Casey could be on TV. Now streaming every day on YouTube. Go to youtube.com/WIBC. Your rights, your responsibilities, your guns. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back for the last segment of The Gun Guy Show here on 93 WIBC. We're talking about now both candidates running for mayor in Indianapolis want to repeal constitutional carry within Marion County. Well, here's a statistic that I'd like to hear them comment on, both of them. Particularly the Republican, Jefferson Shreve, who wants to blame constitutional carry on violence in Marion County, wants to blame law-abiding citizens for the violence in Marion County. It's so repugnant to me. It makes me angry, frankly, which I'm sure you've picked up on if you listen to the Gun Guy Show. But interesting study that came out of the University of Colorado. And listen, Colorado, well, universities generally, but Colorado is a state. Colorado is one of those states, it's like Georgia or Arizona. It's one of those that was strongly Republican, strongly red for a lot of years, generations. And it's really swung blue. It's swung very Democrat. And Colorado's been horrible on gun control. But the University of Colorado came out with a study, and they compared the number of mass shootings in different states based on how they ranked on being pro-2A or anti-2A. In other words, they looked at it and said, can we say that those states that most strictly regulate firearms. And they look in particular at constitutional carry or permitless carry. And said, well, is there a correlation here? And get this. I'd love Jefferson Shreve to answer this or respond to it. And here, by the way, these studies can really vary in what they say, and the data can be manipulated. There's no question about it. But the definition they used of a mass shooting was 4 or more deaths from firearms, from being shot in a shooting. And they looked over a particular time frame, 2014 to 2022, so more recently. And they look and they rank states, and they looked at constitutional carry in particular and said, can we draw any conclusions from this? And get this. Of the 10 states that had the least number of mass shootings, and this is per capita, so it's per million inhabitants. And keep in mind, 26 states have constitutional carry. Get this, of the 10 states that have the fewest mass shootings, which is 4 more people killed in a shooting incident, 9 of them have constitutional carry. 9 out of 10. Put that in your pipe and smoke it, Jefferson Shreve. You know, what did we see? Now, Eli Dickin, my client, Elijah Dickin, saved countless lives right here in Indiana. Now, 3 people died in that incident, 3 innocent people. Now, he was not carrying with constitutional carry. There was a mistake on that made early on. He had his license to carry. But right here in Indiana, where we have constitutional carry, we had a law-abiding citizen pull his gun once a mass shooting broke out and kill the shooter in 15 seconds. 15 seconds. And there's a law-abiding citizen who saved lives with his lawfully carried firearm. And Joe Hogsett and Jefferson Shreve both want to restrict the number of people lawfully carrying a gun in public? Does that make any sense to you? I wrote an article that said Jefferson Shreve and Joe Hogsett both want to make sure we don't have a hero like Eli Dickin if, God forbid, we see a mass shooting break out in Marion County. 9 out of 10 states with the fewest mass shootings. Now, those with the most mass shooting. What led the list? Washington, D.C. Who's got the most restrictive gun laws in the country? Washington, D.C. Now, in fairness, 4 states that had the most also have constitutional carry, but 6 do not. You combine that with the fact that 9 out of 10 with the fewest all have constitutional carry, that's a strong argument for me. And this is per capita, so this is adjusted for population. That's a strong argument for me that we're on the right side of this argument. And anti-Second Amendment politicians like Jefferson Shreve and Joe Hogsett are on the wrong side. That's it for the Gun Guy Show. We hope you come back next week.
Every business deserves a great deal. That's why, for a limited